Hey, sports fans, welcome to Atlanta Sports Unlimited's Fantasy Football Show with Tom Pollen. I'm Dave Holcomb, joining you another Saturday afternoon here in the East, late Saturday morning in Chicago where Tom is.
Yep.
Got a lot of good topics to get to again today. We're going to try and be in and out of a lot of things because we got a lot of quick hitting stories today. Going to start out with a little bit of NFL draft, mock draft coming from Todd Mcshea. We discussed Mel Kiper's mock draft last week. We're going to do Todd Mcshea, and he has a little bit of history happening at the top of his NFL mock draft. We're going to discuss what that history is and how likely it really is for that history to happen. Ben Roethlisberger getting a new contract this week. J.J. Watt getting a new team also this week. Russell Wilson rumors heating back up, and Sam Darnold is on the trade market officially, although maybe we already knew that, but officially he is on the market. So a lot to get to today. Tom, how are you this Saturday?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful Saturday morning in Chicago. Sun's out. I mean, it's a nice one. The cats had an extended run in the backyard, so they're all napping and everything's good.
That's great to hear. So we won't see Zozo today?
No, we're not going to see Zozo today. She is sound asleep.
So. All right. Well, with no Zozo, that means it's even more important that we hear from our fans. So reach out to us here on the show. We want to get your comments on air live if you're listening on air. If you're listening on replay, reach out to us on Twitter. At TJ Pollen is Tom. At DM Holcomb is me. So let's get to the Todd Mcshea mock draft to kick things off. He's got 4 quarterbacks going in the top 4 picks of his new NFL draft. And as we discussed last week, these mock draft experts tend to release multiple mock drafts where they have a lot of different predictions. So we'll see if this prediction holds over the next month and a half or so. But right now, it looks like Todd Mcshea thinks that 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks, and that's never happened in NFL draft history, Tom.
No, and, I think more and more people are becoming aware of the importance of quarterback, as far as team building, and I think that might have a lot to do with it. It would be interesting to see if this does come through, and he has the only team I could see that maybe wouldn't be a top 4 pick for quarterback would be Miami. Unless they decide that maybe after evidence, last year that Tua isn't the guy for them. But that's the only scenario that I see that would keep 4 quarterbacks from being taken in the top 4 picks. Mcshea, I tend to like him. He's pretty good as far as what he does, and I like him more than Mel Kiper.
I've started leaning towards Todd Mcshea as well. I kind of liked Mel for a while, but I think he kind of wore me out a little bit with all of his mocks and just him being considered the guru, and he's so wrong all the time. Yeah. But I mean, no one is 100% right with this stuff. But yeah, I like Todd Mcshea more at this point too, I think. And in Mcshea's, to your point about the Dolphins, in Mcshea's mock draft, he has the Dolphins trading out of the number 3 pick, which I think a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but a writer that I work with at allfalcons.com also really 100% thinks is going to happen. The Dolphins trading out of that number 3 pick. Mcshea has Carolina trading up to number 3. You can kind of pick whether Carolina, do you want Denver going up for a quarterback, New England maybe even. But Mcshea has Carolina jumping the quarterback line, he says, and he has Justin Fields to Carolina at number 3.
Okay, that makes sense. I could see that happening. I could see a lot of scenarios happening. It's going to be a wild couple of months leading into the draft. I don't think anything's going to settle down, especially at the quarterback position. There's so many possibilities that, you got the free agents that are still out there. You still have maybe a couple of trades that are possible. And then you got these 4 draft picks, these 4 quarterbacks who are coming out. And they're the wild card in the whole thing. How do they affect, free agent signings? How do they affect the draft? it's a great scenario. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely. And I should have given a shout out to our producer for joining us today. Again, Chris, thanks for joining us this Saturday. The most shocking thing, I think, in this top 4 quarterback run at the top of the draft in Todd McShea's mock draft is the Falcons going quarterback at number 4. Not necessarily like that's a huge surprise that they'd want a quarterback. That's not a huge surprise. We've discussed that. But going for quarterback after you've already seen the top 3 guys that you'd probably prefer go already, and then the Falcons still going with quarterback Trey Lance from North Dakota State is who Todd McShea has as the 4th quarterback going to the Falcons at number 4.
I don't know if Trey Lance is a top 4 quarterback. That's the thing. And that's the thing we discussed. You could still win with Matt Ryan if you can come up with a couple of players to put around him. Now, this is probably the Falcons' best shot at getting a successor to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, eventual replacement.
Right. You're not going to get this chance again to get a top of the round, franchise capable, prospect in, if the Falcons don't do it this year, they're not going to do it. And it's going to be a rebuild down the line. But, you also look at what the Falcons have, and does it make sense to replace Ryan now? I mean, you could still potentially win with some of the guys on that team. So I don't see the Falcons. I don't see the Falcons even staying in the 4th spot. I still like Charlie Connerly's, mock draft from last week where they had the Falcons moving back and picking up some depth. And, I still think that might be the best move for them.
I agree. Yeah, I don't necessarily, think this is a slam dunk mock draft, I guess, at least for the Falcons pick. It's one thing if you go quarterback, if Justin Fields drops to you one spot, or if somehow Zach Wilson, if the Jets commit to Sam Darnold and the Dolphins stay at number 3, don't take a quarterback, and Zach Wilson is there at number 4, that's one thing if the Falcons take a quarterback. But taking the, quote unquote 4th best quarterback at number 4 is, I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch too. That's why I don't think it'll happen. I think the Falcons are still going to end up with Matt Ryan and basically any of the number of free agents who are available to back him up, and try and build a running game and rebuild the running game and work around receivers that they have. Mm-hmm. It's tough too for the Falcons to bring in the quarterback because, out of all the teams we talk about salary cap hell, the Falcons are really in salary cap hell. Yeah, they're $15 million over the cap, and they have their top 5 their top 5 contracts make up 2/3 of their cap. So
that's pretty amazing. So
it really is.
Who are those 5 guys?
Okay, you have Matt Ryan, of course, who actually is owed his base salary this year is more than his dead cap hit. I mean, less than his dead cap hit. If you release him, you're actually paying more money to release him than you would if you wanted to keep him at quarterback. But you have Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. And it's funny because I remember a couple of years ago when we were both writing for Falcon Maven talking about paying Julio Jones.
Yeah.
And
now they're kind of paying the price for paying Julio Jones, but they needed to do it at the time.
Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle, who I actually think is worth – I don't know if he's worth the $20 million he's going to get next year, but, quality defensive tackle. He's Matthews.
He's pretty good, Grady Jarrett. Underrated player.
Jarrett and Davison in the middle of the line, I think, make up a tough interior, of a defensive front.
Yeah, right.
Jake Matthews, who I don't think has been worth his contract for the last couple of seasons at left tackle.
Yeah.
Then you have Dante Fowler Jr., and who didn't produce last year. And I think the Falcons were expecting to get big production out of him, especially since they finally cut bait with Vic Beasley and let him go and decided he just wasn't going to be the guy.
They went from one beleaguered former first rounder to another.
Yes.
I mean,
pretty much.
Fowler was kind of rejuvenated his career with Los Angeles, but you had Aaron Donald on that team.
Right, exactly.
So,
it makes a big difference.
Right.
And that's why I say Leonard Floyd is going to get a big contract this year. But again, he had Aaron Donald, plugging up the inside. The Bears cut Leonard Floyd because he wasn't doing the job at defensive end or as a pass rusher.
Not as the number one pass rusher.
No. He has a career year as a pass rusher last year. He's going to get paid, but probably should make sure he donates a portion of that contract to Aaron Donald. So open him,
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron Donald should open up a fund of contracts he's helped get for other players. But yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, and we'll talk about J.J. Watt a little bit later. And J.J. Watt is in a different realm than Dante Fowler Jr., obviously. Yes. But at this point in J.J. Watt's career, or I guess my point is not necessarily with J.J. Watt, but with free agency in general. That in order to get a player in free agency, you got to overpay, and that's what the Falcons did. That's what they did with Fowler. That's arguably what they did with Todd Gurley. I don't remember Gurley's contract specifics last year, but he didn't live up. I mean, he wasn't probably even worth spending for anything the way he played this past year.
No, he wasn't the guy that the Falcons thought they were getting. Falcons thought he would rejuvenate their running game. Just like they thought putting Fowler across from Ted McKinley would energize their pass rush, while they ended up cutting McKinley. So, they're pretty well, left them in the lurch there because, you overpaid for your defensive end who's going to complement the defensive end on the other side. Now that plan just blew up. Might be one of the reasons why Thomas Dimitroff didn't come back.
One of the reasons. Yeah. I guess maybe, starting 0-5 was why Dan Quinn got fired, but Quinn's inability to develop a pass rush was the reason why they started 0-5, and it was why they ended up cutting bait with him too. Right.
Exactly. Because, the Falcons actually – they should have been off to a fast start last year.
With their schedule?
Well, considering the fact of how many leads they gave up.
Right.
So, look here. We have Zozo. Yeah. So, she wants to look out the window. But,
they had a lead against Dallas. They had the lead against Chicago.
Yes, they did.
And they had a Detroit was in there as well, right? One of the first 5 games, or was that the 5th game? I
think that was the 5th game.
That was at the 5th game.
Yeah,
that broke the camel's back with Dan Quinn. But getting back to the number 4 pick for the Falcons, and I think our overall point here is so much money going to the top 5 players on your roster, one of them being your quarterback. You're punting on not just this year, you're punting on this group, really, if you draft a quarterback at number 4 or trade up to get a quarterback. That was what Mel Kiper had them doing. And again, I'm not saying that is a bad choice, but that's what it would be. You would be choosing – you would be admitting Matt Ryan's not going to win a Super Bowl, and you would be saying that we're not going to be Super Bowl contenders again for probably 2 years, 3 years at least.
At least, right. You would be saying that. That's exactly it. And even then, you still have to cut. You still have to restructure a number of these contracts because, $15 million, you're not going to make that up by cutting some of that top part of the contracts. you cut Jake Matthews, you get rid of his $20 million, but you got to pay him 18.8, in dead cap money. That's not going anywhere.
That's why he's still on the team.
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why he's still on the team. You got to find a way to restructure him. You got to find a way to restructure Fowler. You got to restructure Jarrett. And then you got to start looking through the roster for other cuts, to be able to bring this. And that's before the draft. That's before you even sign your first free agent. Yeah. You've got to start making these moves. And, the Falcons aren't the only team in this kind of position. There's a lot of teams.
There's a lot of teams. Yeah. I don't know their exact number. I don't want to disagree with you when you said they're in salary cap hell. I believe that. But I think there are 5 teams that are in worse salary cap position.
Yes, there are.
Five teams?
Saints being one of them. Yeah.
Saints are in the worst situation.
So
I believe they have the least amount of salary cap space, right? According to Spot Track.
According to Spot Rack, the least.
Spot Rack.
Yeah, let me hit their cap tracker here.
But I think what I want to hammer home again, we've made this point before, but this is even more of a reason why the Falcons need to acquire more picks and trade back from number 4.
Saints, Rams, Eagles, Chiefs.
Saints, Rams, Eagles, Chiefs.
Are behind the Falcons. So, and that's the thing. You just made up. You just made the point right there. That's why it makes more sense for the Falcons to trade back, get more picks, and it's kind of retool and see. If you're scouting, if you trust your scouting, then you could pick up some guys who can fill in some of these holes around the field and maybe make another run with Matt Ryan at quarterback. I'm not saying that the Falcons are done, but I think given the choice, their best option right now is trading back and getting the picks, rebuilding this roster, making this roster younger.
Right. If they fall in love with Wilson or Fields in the draft process, I'm not against that, but I would be pretty against, unless you can sell me on the fact that Trey Lance is a bona fide franchise quarterback, I would definitely sell the idea of picking him at number 4.
No, I think you got Trey Lance as he's a prospect. He's a guy who could be, a starter, could be, the man actually, but kind of equal odds that you're going to miss on him. So he's not the kind of guy you want to roll the dice on at number 4.
I agree. Absolutely. And that kind of leads us to our trivia question I have for you this week and our audience. So we already said that there's never been 4 quarterbacks going in the first 4 picks. That would have been a good trivia. It would be kind of a trick question. But I'm going to ask you instead, when was the last time 3 quarterbacks went to open up the start of a draft?
Wow. Oh, boy. That's a good question.
And Chris, you can weigh in as well if you have any guesses. Last time an NFL draft opened with 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, and 3.
That's a rough one because you usually get a quarterback or 2 quarterbacks in that top 2.
You do, and then we got the correct answer from I guess it's Chris, right? Chris, is this your guess? 1999.
Wow, 1999.
This is my guess. Wow, I got it right. I didn't even Google anything. I just made a guess.
That's pretty good.
That's correct.
Wow, that is honestly wild for me. I just picked 99 because I know on our page this week we talked about Terrence talked about Eugene Robinson in the 99 Super Bowl. So I just said, hey, what the heck? Why not pick 1999? But it's my lucky number today.
Yeah, absolutely. Go play that at the Powerball or something. How about can I get you to name the quarterbacks, Tom? That would be difficult.
Oh, you're gonna do that to me?
No, I'll give them to you. It's Tim Couch at number 1.
Oh, that's the Tim Couch draft. Okay.
Donovan McNabb, Syracuse alum, at number 2.
Yep.
And how do you say this first name? Akeley?
Oh,
Smith?
Achilles Smith.
Achilles Smith, Bengals quarterback. I don't think he was with the team very long.
No.
But he had 5 touchdowns, 13 interceptions in his career. Did not play much either.
He's one of those guys who had a great senior season, but couldn't translate it into NFL. Yeah, he kind of rose to the top of the draft picks with his senior year out of Oregon, but was actually surprised the Bengals took him that year at number 3 because he wasn't the guy that I think everybody expected him to be. Yeah, that was a big quarterback draft, and the quarterbacks never really hit. Well, Donovan McNabb did. But Tim Couch, boy, yeah, he fell out to play. Wasn't he the Heisman winner that year too?
It was probably Ricky Williams, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that was the year Ricky Williams. I was going to say
that was the year that New Orleans traded their entire draft for Ricky Williams.
Mike Ditka trading the whole draft.
Sure did that.
And I'm not great at naming the Heisman winners, but I believe that would have been 1998 would have been Ricky Williams winning the Heisman.
Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, that year was an interesting draft.
And the only other time that 3 quarterbacks have gone at the beginning of the draft was 1971. I won't ask you to name those quarterbacks. It was Jim Plunkett to the Patriots, Archie Manning to the Saints, and Dan Pasquini to the Houston Oilers. So
Dan Pasquini.
No, I did not know this until a few days ago, that those are the only 2 drafts because you think, quarterbacks, NFL draft, it's been a position that's almost always been overdrafted, but only twice has 3 teams said we're going to draft quarterbacks at the top of the draft, and never have 4 quarterbacks gone right off the bat. I mean, 4 quarterbacks going in the first round, at least a few years ago, was a pretty big deal, and now Todd McShea has 4 going in the first 4 picks. I don't think it's going to happen, but the fact that we're even in a position where someone can make a mock draft and it be realistic that 4 quarterbacks can go in the first 4 picks really says where the league is right now with quarterbacks.
Yeah, it does. And actually, I think the league is actually catching up to the truth that quarterback is the most important position on the team, and if you don't have one, you're not going to go very far. You can win without a great quarterback. It's very tough to do. You're rolling a lot of dice to try and get having the perfect season out of your defense, having a perfect season out of a couple of guys on offense, to be able to win with a quarterback who's maybe league average. All right, you've got to have a quarterback who's among the elite, because he'll make up for mistakes you've made elsewhere in the field.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can't make up for a bad quarterback or an average quarterback. A great quarterback can make up for mistakes in other areas. Yes. And that's why it's just you've got to have that guy.
I always found it odd that when I first started breaking into this business in 2013, 2014, that was kind of the period I thought where reporters in the media were really saying, oh, quarterback is so important, so important. But you look back at history, very few average to below average quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl, like 2. Very few. It's always been important. It's always been, that's not really new. I mean, quarterbacks are getting bigger and bigger numbers every year, And I guess the MVP has turned into a quarterback award. They haven't really had any running backs
Seems
for a
like
while
it, yeah.
win an MVP, but quarterback has always been important, as you're making the point as well.
Yeah, it just you can't do it, and that's why so many teams are scrambling around for the few that are still available this season. You got two who are under contract to teams. You got Dak Prescott, who is still technically a free agent, but from what I've been hearing, and you never know who is leaking the stuff you've been hearing, which we've discussed before.
Right.
That Prescott is actually him and the Cowboys are finally starting to come together on a contract agreement. So we'll see how that goes.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, there's just no quarterbacks out there to be had anymore if you want to improve your team, unless you're willing to really mortgage your future and move up in the draft for one.
That's why we dedicate so much time of our show to quarterbacks.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's just the way of the league, and I think the league is finally catching up to that truth, and it's about time. Some of us have known it for quite a long time, but I think we're finally seeing the results.
I want to move on to some other topics, but one other stat that I read this morning, which just baffled me, and maybe this isn't all that unusual. I guess I got to look back at history to see, but I read on The Athletic today, no quarterback drafted in the first round from 2009 to 2016 are on the team that drafted them.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, is that that seems astonishing, but is it? I don't know. I have to go back and see how much, first round there's a lot of first round quarterbacks that bust. And then, not all of them end up on their team. The teams finishing their careers with the teams that that drafted them. So maybe that's not as astonishing as it first sounds. But when it first hit me that I read that, I was like, that's pretty amazing. That's almost a decade of quarterbacks, first round picks. It's been a while since 2009, but before 2009, Aaron Rodgers is still on his team. Ben Roethlisberger, we're going to discuss a little bit in today, still on his team. So there are quarterbacks before 2009 first round picks on their team, but not during that period, 2009 and 2016.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Matthew Stafford, just been traded.
Right.
He was still with his original team.
Carson Wentz, Jared Goff is in that group.
Yep. All of them. Sam Bradford, who was the first overall pick. And one of the biggest jokes that, I don't know, the punchline to a bunch of quarterback jokes is in my mind.
Andrew Luck retired.
Andrew Luck retired. So Cam Newton has gone to a couple of different places. Yeah, Cam Newton was a first overall pick.
Yeah.
That's something. Jake Locker's retired. Christian Ponder didn't last long with Minnesota. Guy, you look at some of these names that, Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III. Ryan Tannehill is now with Tennessee and actually revived his career. So
Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota went 1-2, not on the same teams.
Not on the same team anymore, right? The two saviors of their team, supposedly, and it was a big question of which one would be the success and which one would be the failure. Because normally when you have top two quarterbacks, one is a big success, one makes it big, the other one usually fails. And that was everybody was talking about that at that time during that draft. Well, both of them kind of
did
not make it. Yeah. That's Blake Bortles, who was just a joke. He's the punchline to a lot of quarterback jokes. Johnny Manziel. Yeah, I remember him walking up in the draft going like this.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Fowler, actually, Dante Fowler was draft third behind Marcus Mariota in that one draft.
That's right. Yeah, and he was the Jaguars drafted him knowing he would not play as a rookie. He had a torn ACL.
Yeah, exactly. And he's had problems ever since. So, it really is surprising, but it's true. These quarterbacks have not stayed with their original team. 2017 kind of breaks that circuit because you got Pat Mahomes, who's not going anywhere.
Right. Mahomes will end that trend, that streak.
Yes.
But I guess, Trubisky is going to leave, and then Deshaun Watson, who knows what's going to happen with him?
Who knows? Right now, Houston still wants to be stubborn about Deshaun Watson, but with or without Watson, you're in a rebuild. You're not going anywhere in the next couple of seasons. You're at a point where you got to rebuild that roster. So without Watson, you're still in a rebuild. You're still looking for a quarterback. My thing, what I came up with, and I was thinking about a lot this week, was with Russell Wilson. Because, everybody's going crazy about, Wilson coming to Chicago. Isn't that right, Zozo? and she's walking on the back of the chair. She doesn't have an opinion yet. But just walked out of the room. Must be boring her.
You disagree with something you said.
Yeah, I know. I made her angry. But Wilson, I mean, if you look at Twitter, Reddit, and all, Wilson coming to the Bears is just the topic. And basically out of the 14.
Uh-oh. Tom, did you freeze? Chris, you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I cannot hear Tom. Can you hear Tom?
No, I can't hear Tom. He froze.
All right. He was making a point about Russell Wilson going to Chicago, and hopefully we get Tom back soon. Tom has an interesting perspective with Wilson because of being a Bears fan, being in Chicago. For me, my take on Wilson actually has more to do with J.J. Watt. Let's dive into J.J. Watt and his contract first. Watt signed a 2-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals this week, and he's going to count as, I believe, is $15 million. Or the deal is for worth $15 million this season. He's going to be more than $15 million against the cap next year, Chris, but this year a little bit cheaper, I believe, than that. But overpaying for J.J. Watt, but the Cardinals getting a pass rusher, and I can't help but think that Russell Wilson sees that, and although the Seahawks didn't do anything wrong by seeing a rival sign somebody, but you've heard Russell Wilson over the last month or so complaining about his offensive line not getting enough protection. And you see J.J. Watt go to the Cardinals, another former all-pro that you have to deal with. I can't help but think that Russell Wilson is just really upset about that happening. We got Tom back here, and I don't know how much you've heard of what I'm talking about with J.J. Watt and Russell, relating it to Russell Wilson, but even though the Cardinals, I think, overpaid for Watt, I can't help but think about Russell Wilson looking at his division, and Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt have combined for 6 of the last 10 Defensive Player of the Year awards. You got to deal with those guys 4 times a year. Russell Wilson cannot be a happy man. Cannot be happy that happened.
Oh, no, definitely not. And you look at San Francisco when they still had Buckner and Bosa wasn't injured, and that was a
You got to deal
defense.
with Nick Bosa. Yeah.
Yes, you got to deal with Nick Bosa. So it's hell for a quarterback in the NFC West. But as I said, I was kind of thinking about it all week. And if the Seahawks trade Russell Wilson, you're in rebuild mode. You are admitting right now that you're kind of retooling. You're done with this latest playoff window. And the team that was 12-4 last year, yes, they lost to the Rams in the wild card game, but
they won their division.
They won their division, 12-4. And you look at a team that's still, I would say that their Super Bowl window may not be as wide open as it once was, but there's still openings there. You can still get there with a good draft, with some solid work this offseason. You trade Wilson, and a lot of the words say that Wilson hasn't asked for anything yet. But you trade Wilson, you're done. You can't get a comparable quarterback. You're not going to get anyone. You're not going to get anyone back in a trade. You're not going to be able to draft an equivalent quarterback or an equivalent prospect. You are saying that we are done with this run. So I'm not so sure that Wilson is on the market.
I don't think he is. A lot of it is just rumors at this point.
Right. It's rumors.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rumors going around. There's a lot of rumors the last couple of days that say the Bears are really loading up with an offer. But what are you going to get in return from the Bears? You might get a couple of defensive players that are really going to help you because the Bears are still strong in defense. But who are you going to get as a quarterback? You're going to get Nick Foles as quarterback? Nick Foles is going to make you happy, coming back as quarterback? So
the Bears have a first-round pick, right? It's not in Las Vegas.
Right. No, the Bears are picking at number 20.
I would assume that has to be part of the deal if there's any to be had with Wilson going to Chicago.
Well, that would be part of the trade, yes. But you're not going to get a comparable quarterback at 20 either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Basically all the quarterbacks were – so you're looking at this – a lot of fans are looking at this from the perspective of, boy, can my team get him? Well, the Saints, you don't know. The Saints are 32nd in the salary cap hell. That's not happening.
No.
Dallas is – negotiating with Prescott. There's a possibility that's going to happen. Apparently, John Gruden and Derek Carr are, a lot closer than people think. And Derek Carr is likely going to stay in, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Chicago for Russell Wilson. And, as a Bears fan, I would love to have him. To me, he makes the Bears instant contenders. He makes any team he goes to an instant contender. The problem is you also stop, if you're Seattle, you stop being an instant contender when you have Russell, when you get rid of him, when you trade him.
To me, the bigger issue also is, do you want to rebuild with a head coach that's 70 years old? But Pete Carroll, He's 70. He's not going to want to admit that the Seahawks aren't going to be Super Bowl contenders again until he's 72, 73. So I just don't see – and Pete Carroll is not the general manager, but he has a say in their player personnel.
Yes,
so
he sure does.
I don't think that he would be for even if they got 10 first-round picks for Russell Wilson. It's still a rebuild, and I don't see Pete Carroll signing up for that.
That's why I say it's still a rebuild. It's no matter what you get for him, 2021 is the start of your rebuild.
Yes.
If you trade him. Yeah. So, and that's the big problem with all these trade rumors I've been hearing, because there are fans that want to say next 10 years of number one picks. If we could get Russell Wilson. And I've seen fans who say, draft picks are overrated. And I'm like, God, no.
That's a whole conversation.
What are you going to do with draft picks? Yeah, please. Twitter, Reddit, you just sometimes you don't want to read Twitter and Reddit. You just want to go and say.
Sometimes you just got to sign off.
You sign off and you say.
But I get what they're saying to a degree. I don't really agree with, although Miami, it's somewhat worked, where you kind of stock draft picks, right? Or the Cleveland did it for a long time. And I guess Cleveland is finally good, but I don't necessarily think that Cleveland's good because they, continue to stockpile picks and draft a quarterback in the second and third round every year.
Well, Cleveland is good because they finally got some people in the organization who know what to do with the picks that they do bring in. That's helped a lot.
They're good because they picked number one, talking about draft picks, how important they are. They picked number one 2 years in a row, and they got Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield. So that was a big reason why they've turned it around,
right.
Not all of the other draft picks they've accumulated. So I wouldn't necessarily I'm not in love with that strategy. However, you can't just year after year after year just trade your top pick or your or a majority of your picks. The Rams have done that. And the Rams are still a decent team. They've been able to trade a pick for Jalen Ramsey, trade a pick for they gave it up for Matt Stafford this year. So we'll see how that works.
You're not giving up, but you're getting a franchise quarterback in exchange for that number one pick. You're getting a franchise defensive back in exchange for that number one pick. That makes a difference. Who are you getting for that number one pick?
It's true.
Are you getting a player who would be the equivalent of who you would get in that draft? Or,
yes.
Maybe slightly better. That makes sense. That I could see. But don't say I'm going to give up the next 5 number one pick, my next 5 number one picks just to bring Russell Wilson in. Well, that's not going to happen. It's just hilarious. I read some of these rumors. I don't know. Maybe it's my age. Maybe I get more cynical as I've gotten older. I just look at some of this stuff.
You just gotta let it, roll off your shoulder because there's no truth to it, and there's a reason why we're called fans because we're fanatics, right? We're fanatics about this stuff. But a great example of what you're talking about. I mean, there were rumors for a while the Steelers, or at least the fans, wanted the Steelers to trade a number one pick for Patrick Peterson when they were, quote unquote, a cornerback away from going to the Super Bowl in 2016, 2017. Well, if they had done that, Peterson would have he got older. He's not as good now, or he would have left in free agency. He also got suspended for
yes, he did.
PEDs. So that would have been a disastrous trade. But then when the Steelers traded a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick, everybody hated it. However, that was the right trade to make because they got a 22-year-old that was under a rookie contract for 3 or 4 years for a first-round pick.
Right.
They would have gotten they would have gotten if they had hit on the pick. They would have gotten an equivalent player, same age, and had to have developed him. But they were trading for a player they already knew that was good, that was young, and on contract. That was the right way to trade a first-round pick.
Exactly. That's what you're looking for. And now, see, if the Bears have to give up their first round this year, and they're going to have to give up their first round this year. They're going to have to give up their first round next year. But to me, a quarterback is worth that. If you're going to start giving up more, then you could probably get more depth and get more talent on your team. You still have to figure out a place to get a quarterback from. But it's hard to say because as I said, we don't know where's a quarterback. And I know maybe I'm going back and forth on this. The Bears have got to get a quarterback. You cannot have Sid Luckman still being your top quarterback on the franchise list.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to get a quarterback, but I don't trade away the rest of my first round picks in the 2020s just to get that guy. So
you don't do what Mike Dick again did, trade away your whole draft for one player.
No, especially for a running back. My God, Mike. Oh, geez.
Well, while you were away there for about a minute, I was talking about J.J. Watt and his contract. People have reacted saying the Cardinals have overpaid for J.J. What's your reaction to Watt going to the Cardinals?
Watt still has – I think he still has some upside. The Cardinals, again, they're a team kind of like the Rams who are going all in for this year. The Cardinals have decided that they need that extra help on their defensive front. They're already a defensive front that does a very good job of rushing the quarterback. But they're kind of saying we're all in now. We think Kyler Murray's our guy. We think we have enough offense. If we can just, tighten up the defense just a little bit, we can actually challenge for a Super Bowl next year. And I think that's what the Cardinals are doing. That's why you would overpay for a guy like J.J. Watt. Is you think he's that final piece, that he still has enough in the tank. Now, can he stay healthy for a full season? That's something we haven't seen the last couple of years.
That's what I was going to mention, is overpaying for an aging player is one. Overpaying for an aging player who has an injury history is a whole nother factor. Now, this year, we're talking about overpaying him. This year, he is 28th among defensive ends in cap hit. So that's not necessarily overpaying the guy. That's according to SpotRack.com. $4.9 million is his cap hit. Next year, the cap hit is over $15 million. And they're paying him, I believe, on average over $15 million each season. So that's where the overpaying is coming from. As a fan, I don't really care what my team or any team pays a player. I care about the cap hit. So at least this year, J.J. Watt's cap hit is manageable. Next year, it's much worse. And maybe that's kind of what the Cardinals are figuring, that, hey, we're going all in on this year.
We're going all in, right.
The low cap hit for 2021.
Right. That's what they are saying. And everybody's counting on the cap to come back a little bit after, a disastrous last season.
Right.
I think people are counting on the cap to make a recovery. And Zozo, you want to give me a chance to do this? Is going to get a chance to come back a little bit, that maybe that cap is more affordable next season than what you're seeing this season, because everybody's getting squeezed this season. But again, this is the time where if you're a team that thinks you have it now, that thinks you're ready, I don't begrudge them overpaying for a player. Go ahead and do it.
As I said earlier, you're going to have to do it if you want to bring in good free agents.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do it now because you feel like you do have a team that can challenge. You do feel like maybe you have a defense that could challenge the Rams next year. And I'm not sure anybody has that defense, but maybe you have a defense that you feel, and you have an offense that you feel you can move forward with, and that's going to put us in the playoffs and contend for a Super Bowl.
I think that's the thing. They have real confidence in Kyler Murray's development and
right.
Their offense, where they think, okay, let's just make the defense a little bit better, and we're right there. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. But we'll see. The thing that I don't like about overpaying J.J. Watt is his health. He's got to be healthy. If he's healthy, to me, he'll be worth it. But
right.
And really, the question also is, you're paying J.J. Watt that much, you probably want him to play on every single down. And I was reading an article this morning on The Athletic. I was reading through a lot of their articles, and they made the point of J.J. Watt is probably going to be more effective in a more of a pass rushing role as opposed to playing on every down. And that'll also help him keep not only fresh in the fourth quarter or late in the season, that'll also keep him healthier if he's not playing all the time.
Yes.
Well, I think that's also going to be a struggle with J.J. Watt. You want to see that sack production. You want to see the snaps because you're paying him to play. However, you also can't overuse him and cause a situation where he could get hurt.
No, you can't. So that makes a big difference. So we'll see. Yeah, I think he needs to be more of an every down. He can't be. Well, he needs to be. He's not going to be an every down player. You're going to see him best second and long and third down. And
I think so too.
And you hope that that's enough and that you have enough to get by on second and short or first and first downs, where you can stuff the run, create passing situations, and then J.J. Watt is on one side ready to wreak havoc, and but that's the thing. I don't argue with the Cardinals doing that. I think the Cardinals are fine with doing that. I like the fact that they're saying they're making a statement, not only making a statement to fans, making a statement to the rest of the division, making a statement to the rest of their team. We are, we feel we are serious. We have confidence in you. We're adding a piece that we think is going to be strong. This is a message to their team saying, we believe you're ready.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way too. So
that's true.
There's a lot of reasons why I do like this pickup by the Cardinals.
You made the point the Cardinals are going all in on this year. Another team that I think is doing that, and really it's going to be the end of an era, I believe, after 2021. The Pittsburgh Steelers getting a new deal with Ben Roethlisberger, who's taking a pay cut. Very rare. Normally we use the term pay cut for a restructure. And actually this isn't a restructure. This is actually a old school. He's getting less money. He's already made lots of money.
He's made lots of money. He's done all right.
But he will be making less in Ben Roethlisberger will in 2021. Opened up $15 million in salary cap space. I think it's a win-win for the Steelers, for the Steelers and Big Ben, because we've discussed in the past. Pittsburgh kind of went into the offseason saying, Ben, you have to restructure, and if you don't, we're going with Mason Rudolph. And as a Steelers fan, that makes you nervous, thinking Mason Rudolph is your starting quarterback. So this is, I think, absolutely what the Steelers wanted to do going into the offseason, restructuring him. And I think this is Big Ben's last year. He turned 39 this week. I think this is it. I think this is the swan song, and they're going to try and bring back as many, going to restructure more deals and open up as much space to bring back as many free agents and load up and try to win it this year. And if not, Roethlisberger retires, and then they'll pick up the pieces after that.
Yeah. Defensively, I think the Steelers are ready. I think they can make a hell of a run. They were by far the best defensive front in football last year, as far as pressuring the quarterback. So you're not making a big leap to say we can win it with Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, 39. Yes, he's not at his prime anymore. He's taken a drop in skill, but there's still a lot. He knows how to win. He knows what to do. He knows how to get the most out of his players. If you're going to win now, you're going to win with Roethlisberger and then start your rebuild next year. Because you have everybody in place that you want to make that run this year. You almost made the run last year, but you fell, you had a bad second half.
Right. Really bad December. And maybe this is, I can't take an outsider's perspective on the Steelers, obviously. So but as an insider, as a fan, I think they're close. And that's why I like bringing back Roethlisberger and not starting the rebuild. But I can understand why someone would watch a game they played in December, a few of their games in December, and say, Dave, they're not that close. I understand that argument as well. However, I don't want to throw out the 11-0 start because I think they can get back to playing at that level if they do a couple of things in the offseason. It'll be hard because they're another team that the Roethlisberger deal helps, but they're another team that really doesn't have much space to do stuff. But if they hit on a running back or add a couple linemen in the draft, add some defensive depth, I think they're right there. So I like bringing back Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I think they're a team that still has their window open. Mm-hmm. And they showing that by bringing back Roethlisberger. They, went to him. They worked something out, and they're basically telling the rest of their team, they're telling the fans that we are a player this year. We still think we have the defense. We think we have enough offense. Yeah, it fell apart last year, but let's see what we can do with it now. Let's see what we can do with it now. We still have a window. We can still win with this quarterback. We won with this quarterback before. We can still win with this quarterback. This quarterback can take us places if he has some more pieces around him. If we keep his uniform clean and maybe give him a little bit better running game.
Real quick, just a couple minutes left. Do you have any reaction to Sam Darnold officially hitting the trade market?
He's a guy.
I think I read on the Athletic today, this morning, that the Jets are hoping to get a top 10 pick in the second round. Would you give up a top 10 pick in the second round right now for Sam Darnold?
No, I wouldn't. Not for what he's shown in the NFL, in his NFL career so far. I wouldn't. And I think the Jets are dreaming. I think they have done their best to build up Sam Darnold to try and get some trade value for him. They've actually come out and said, we like his talent level. We like he's multi-talented. He can run. He can pass. They've done everything to talk up Sam Darnold, but you still can't get past his on-field record as a quarterback. Yeah, you still can't get past his play. When he hits the field, that's a whole different story. He hasn't proven anything. So right. you can talk about Darnold all you want. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think there's going to be any real demand for him. I think he might end up being a second stringer on the Jets bench, to whoever they end up picking. Because I can't see anybody giving up a top 10 in the second round for him. You might be able to get a third round pick for him, but that's you're not getting much better than that.
I agree. Yeah, I look at Sam Darnold as a reclamation project, and I don't give up second round picks for reclamation projects, especially high second round picks. So I would not do that either. And
you look at the fact that you're building your roster depth in the second and third round. That's where you're getting your starters from.
Yeah.
You may not be getting all pros, but you're getting your starters from the 2, 3, and 4. So no, you're not going to give up that second round pick where you're going to get maybe a starting lineman, a starting offensive lineman, starting defensive back, starting slot corner, where you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to give up on the chance of getting that guy so I can bring in Sam Darnold. It's not happening.
I also think what's going to hurt the Jets' ability to trade him is there's we've seen a few quarterbacks moved already, but there are still high caliber quarterbacks, I'm mostly thinking of Deshaun Watson, that are available. Even if you can get Sam Darnold for a third round or fourth round pick, whatever, you don't have a team signing up to do that in March when they think, well, I can still get Deshaun Watson. So until Deshaun Watson, that situation is settled, I find it hard to believe that a team, even for a very, very cheap price, is going to jump on the Sam Darnold bandwagon.
Yeah. But again, what we talked about earlier is having to have the guy to be a Super Bowl contender. Darnold isn't the guy. You can bring him in as a reclamation project, but 99% of what we've seen out of him says he's not the guy and he's never going to be the guy.
Yeah.
So you're wasting your time. When you're trading away a solid starter for the next 10 years for somebody who's just never going to take you anywhere. Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
I guess I don't look at it exactly that way because I don't give up on. Well, I don't know how to phrase. If he's the right price, I don't see if there's any harm in bringing. I don't see any harm in bringing him in.
If he's the right price,
will it end up being a waste of time? More than likely, yes. You're more than likely you're going to be right. But you got to do your due diligence, and if you're getting them for a cheap price, then fine. But I guess my point again is just that no one is going to, even for a cheap price, give up Sam Darnold if they think they're in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. That
right. Exactly.
we don't even know if there is a sweepstakes. We still don't know. Houston is refusing to start the sweepstakes.
No, yeah, right. Watson says there's a sweepstakes.
Right.
But until the Texans say there's a sweepstakes, no, we're kind of waiting on that one.
Yes. We're past the hour mark now. Great show. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for watching it. We'll be back next Saturday. Reach out to us on Twitter during the week at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. We'll be back next weekend.